Hello friends, and welcome back to Enterprise Architecture. Now, the building you see in front of us is what we are creating today. Last episode, as you may recall, I started to set up our screw production by building a massive iron factory, and the goal of that was to get computers and heavy frames so that we could then get towards building our rail system. However, it took me a really long time to do just the first part of that, setting up the manufacturers and setting up the iron foundry. So, for this episode, this is the second half of the episode that I had started to record and hadn't finished, and I built this massive screw factory, and we're going to be seeing that today. Now, before we get to that build, a couple of minor housekeeping notes. First and foremost, I know this video is a little bit late. I've still been struggling to keep up, and again, this build took a very, very long time. It took me about maybe 12 to 16 hours to build this monstrosity. So that's painful, and so it's just taking me a little longer between videos than usual. I was producing 3 videos a week when I was doing Minecraft series. Right now, the Satisfactory series is doing about 1 every 2 weeks, so I apologize for that, but it just takes me a little longer to get to this level of detail and refinement in a build. So I appreciate y'all's patience as I go through this process and really explore my building, but I like to do it. Apparently, note number 2, you all like it a lot as well, because you've really been hitting that like button, you've really been subscribing, you've been leaving some really nice comments, and that's been really helping my channel a lot. And I'm ecstatic to announce I finally, after a year and a half, broke 1,000 subscribers. This is a huge milestone for me. I'm really excited. I never actually thought I would get this many followers. This is wonderful. So thank you all so much for helping me get to this point. So I'm just going to keep producing the same amazing content that I've been doing. Very little is going to change in my channel just for hitting that 1,000 subscriber mark, but it really shows that people are really liking the content that I'm creating. So thanks again for that. I really appreciate all the support, and if you want to like and subscribe on this video, that will help me out a lot as always. I really appreciate it. The last thing I wanted to mention is, well, this build that we've been working on, right? So you all may have seen that the Satisfactory team over at Coffee Stain, they released a video today in my time, but maybe a couple of days ago for you all seeing this video, where they basically threw a little wrench in our works. For 1.0, they're pretty much disrupting all of the work that we have been doing. We started in the Northern Forest, and that basically means that all of the production nodes that we are currently relying on pretty much have been changed, altered, moved, or completely removed altogether from the game. That's difficult for us, given that we have been building towards thinking that this is going to be a mega base that we could keep around for a little while, but as it turns out, it's not gonna. The quartz crystal nodes are basically being nerfed, the coal nodes are being nerfed, the recipe for computers is changing, and I believe no longer even needs screws. This massive screw factory we just built is going to be useless in a 1.0 game. So my plan as a result of that is to keep playing through right now with update 8. If they do release an update 9 before 1.0, I guess we'll consider at that time whether or not we're going to upgrade, but I'm going to keep rolling with this and keep building this overall structure, this overall world that we've been working on here for a while, same thematics and whatnot. And hopefully by the time 1.0 comes out, we'll have a lot of our design aesthetics picked out that we really want to use for that world, some of these blueprints pieces that we're going to be able to reuse, all of that good stuff that'll make our 1.0 experience go a lot smoother and a lot faster. Hopefully, that's at least the plan at this point. But that's a long way off. We're not going to worry about that now. We are going to focus on the job at hand, which is building out the rest of this world in the 0.8 version, including this facility right here that we're about to start in a second. The only other thing I wanted to mention today, just as a housekeeping note, is I might start up another Minecraft series here that's going to be interspersed with the Satisfactory content. Playing through large volumes of Satisfactory is super fun, but sometimes I need some downtime from playing just one game. I like to play different games a lot of the time. I've actually been playing a lot of Animal Well lately, which is another fun game, but I'm not going to stream that. So instead, I think I might pick another one of these Minecraft mod packs that focuses around technology, or maybe a Skyblock series. I haven't really decided which I'm going to pick, but there's some nice new packs out and some older packs that I want to revisit. So that will probably start showing up here in the next couple of weeks, if not the next couple of months, to kind of fill in so that I can get more content out more regularly and have some time between the Satisfactory videos to actually do all of the building. So feel free to leave me feedback on that and where we're going and what we're doing with the channel. Drop those into the comment section below and let me know how we're doing, what you think of these builds. I really appreciate it. Now, with no further ado, let's dive right in. All right, so with our massive amount of iron that we have coming out here, which is this many ingots, a little over 1,600, that means we then need to turn that into rods and then into screws. So if we can do, say, 15 at a time, if we have these assemblers going at double speed, constructors going at double speed, then that means we still need 111 of them. And that also means we then need to find some way to get those out and turned into screws. So that means I think we're going to do double speed on one, so we get 10 per minute, and then we'll do a regular speed one next to it. And that means we are then doing 15 per minute. Now that would work pretty nicely. Alternatively, we could add a second one here, which might be the way to do this. And then that would feed into 3 of these, which we then would just replace this splitter with a merger and make this then twice the speed. So I think that might be the way to do this as a pattern. So this is going to take in 30 ingots per minute and come out with 120 ingots, or 120 screws per minute. That is a lot. We are going to have way more screws here than we ever know what to do with or will ever need to do again. But that also means that we have to repeat this pattern over and over again. So even at that number, we are still at what? That's another half of that? Yeah, so we still need 56 of these patterns here that we have laid out for us. So that means we need to scale this up even more. So I think what we might do here is repeat this a bunch so that we can do basically, I don't know, like 10 of these per floor and then make ourselves a massive tower of screws. I mean, the Blueprint Designer Mark V is so big, I can't even barely put it down without building a ridiculously large platform. This thing is huge, just massive. And this is what we are going to use, although it says not to build out our factory layout here. All right, so since each of those layouts was 3 wide and 5 long, I then reversed it and did 5 wide and 3 long rows of it. So we have a perfect square here. And that means we have 15 of these. That means we need 4 floors of this exact layout to be able to set it up. Mathematically, that works really well for us because that means we are consuming basically a full Mark IV belt there each time. Now, coming back out though, however, we basically need 4 Mark IV belts to be able to keep up because we are a long way away from Mark V. And as I mentioned before, we still haven't unlocked Mark IV yet, so we need to do that. But I'm gonna go ahead and save this recipe and hope that it doesn't explode on me. So we want this somewhere relatively close that's easy to get our ingots into it. So maybe like right over here on this side would be a good place for it. So let's do that real quick. We're going to build this off of the same grid as we have already been using. So to do that, I'm just going to run a row of foundations here this way till we're over the desert, just like that. And then from there, we're going to go down with it. And I think we're going to build probably over the desert. We're going to have this thing sitting up a bit. Thankfully, we have infinite nudge turned on. So that might be what we use here. Let's go ahead and hold that in place. And that's pretty close to where we want it. We just need to go, let's see, down 1 and then nudge it over a little bit until it fits right in place. Yeah, that looks about right. All right, so that is 1 floor. Let's go ahead and build that. Let's hope it doesn't crash my game. No, that seemed to work fine. Okay, great. And there's 2. And it looks like we're gonna have to build a bigger pillar because this is not gonna be high enough for the last couple here. And 4. Okay, there is all of our wonderful, wonderful floors all laid out. And actually that works pretty nicely for us because we're coming in just below our logistics floor here. So that works really good for us. Now we are going to give ourselves a little room coming off the front here to build a facade and give us some hollow walls to deal with all of the logistics that are going on here. But now on to the fun part, we get to decorate this monstrosity. So to look at this thing, basically we've created the same sin that we did before, which is it's just a big box. And big boxes are boring. We don't like big boxes for factories. So to eliminate that problem, I think what we're gonna do is frame in each of these corners in a way that makes it feel less blocky. So I think we're going to do some big hexagonal pillars here coming out that we'll also then use to surround our logistics. So those pillars will kind of absorb all of that space. Then in between there, we're going to work with more diagonals, only this time we're going to do the vertical diagonals instead of these horizontal diagonals. That'll kind of make the space even more broken up. So I just really have to figure out how I want to design this out. So I think actually what I'm going to do here, I started thinking that maybe these need to have some big sectionals here that come out and sort of stick out and kind of frame this a little bit. And then let's start playing with our road barriers a little bit here and see where we end up landing with this. All right, so we're going to use a 3/4 of an octagon here on these edges, just like so. And we're just going to nudge that right into place. All right, perfect. So those will make the pillar edges of our overall structure here. Yeah, that's pretty rough, but that's going to give us the general footprint of what we need, and that still gives us a lot of space inside to run all of our logistics, which is the main purpose of having these giant structures like this. So there's our basic structure. Now, right now, as designed, this looks a little too castle-like. That's not the feel that we are going for. So we need to make sure that we are going out of our way to break up this space in a lot more interesting ways. That means cutting notches out of the existing sides and structures that we've put in place here, and then really playing with those diagonals like I'd mentioned. So I've been doing a little bit of tinkering here, and I kind of like the way that this is coming together. This is using Structural Solutions concrete, which gives us a little bit more flexibility. We can get some better colors out of this if we want. So for instance, I can make all of this white here without too much trouble, and that could look really nice for us. That might be too bright, but the point being we can play with this and come up with something that works really well for us. But I'm not sure if I absolutely love how this has come together yet. I'm still deciding between the thick and the thin columns here. I think I need to play with it a little. Now the build for this is really simple. We just have a pair of small billboards that I stuck on small metal pillars and stuck those on the back. And then overlapping those, we have our 4x4x4 blocks from Structural Solutions, and then the 8x4x1 blocks going down, and then we just remove every other one. Alternatively here, these are half size instead of 1 meter foundation, so half a meter. And that gives us a little bit more of a grid and shows a little bit more through. That might be the winner for me. But at a distance, I don't want it to be overwhelming. All right, making a little more progress here. I have added in some small concrete pillars to break this up just a little bit. And I want to show you all the way that I'm doing that, because these are at an angle that's in between these two angles. And again, you can't do that normally by rotating them. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to grab a painted beam, and we are going to change this mode to freeform. And we're going to go halfway down this first pillar right in the middle there. And then we're going to do the same thing on this side. Now, we just need to remove one of these pieces so that we can put another beam off of that one right in the middle. And now we change the mode back to default. That's going to be exactly 2 meters off the top of that, which is where we want it. Remove that one, put our block back in place. And now we should be able to take our builder and put a small concrete pillar right in the smack middle of that. Actually, this pillar might be in the way to do that. We just need a part of it exposed to be able to build that in place. And you could do this with any of our pillars. I'm just using the concrete one for argument's sake. Let's try that one more time. There we go. And now I can zoom this all the way down. Now, if you're going to be a perfectionist like me, you're going to want to go in there and remove that beam that was in the way. And then we put our blocks back in place, just like that. All Alright, so we've got these columns in place, and I think we need to start figuring out what we're going to do with the rest of the walls here. This gets a little bit more complicated because I didn't have a really clear vision in mind for what I wanted to do here. Aside from, like I said, some of those diagonals I think could work really well here, but I hadn't really fleshed out what I wanted to do with this. Alright, that's certainly becoming something. I'm not sure what it's becoming, but it's certainly getting on the process of being something. Okay, so I think that's starting to frame out as an entryway. Let's go ahead and play with decorating this just a little bit, keeping in mind that this will be the gateway to our train station here. We might actually need to come out a little bit further from here with this as a result. This is only going to give us 3 foundations distance. That's enough to put a train station in, but not much room to maneuver. So I'm going to bring all of this out by about, let's say, 3 foundations and then move everything off the end of it. Now, we're going to want to have some trains coming in here, and we're going to have 2 lines, I think, one in and one out, so we can have a nice little turnaround in there somewhere. We might even need to go up and down with that. Something to think about. But I think that means that I want those lines to be separated in the middle here by half a foundation. And there's a couple of ways we could do that. I'm going to go down to the grates, those floor grates that I love so much from Structural Solutions. They have a half-size one somewhere in here. Is then the expansions? Yeah, the metal floor grating. This thing is super fun. I love this. This is going to be our walkway. Just like that. And then I think maybe on the sides, we could just do standard foundations, right? We'll start with these and see how we like them. Because the next thing I'm going to do is paint these white also. There. I think that'll look nice. And then we just need to close the gap on the side here. So let's just go down with these metal frames again, these metal grate floorings. So it turns out that the grating, even though it does look like it's transparent to us, basically blocks out most of the light there. So if we want to do lighting in the floor like this, we're going to have to leave it kind of open. And I think that that works perfectly fine for us. Let's go ahead and grab our painted beam, and we're going to go up into the ceiling with this. Just a little. There we go. And that beam will give us something to put our billboards on. So let's see about... Can I get that right on that edge? I think that is right on that edge, but we'll find out really quick. There we go. And that gives us a very glowy space. That looks kind of cool. That looks kind of cool. So I'm thinking maybe the train only picks up the supplies from the station that we put over here somewhere. But to actually get inside the facility, maybe we actually have a second door here. So what if I pull these out of the way and instead set something up so that we actually want to enter on this level where those crosswalks are, those catwalks. So if I did this, could I do something like this? And then let's try putting ourselves a door of some sort here. We're going to put that there for now. And, oh, I have an idea. Here's what we'll do. Let's go ahead and grab up our walls. Let's see here. Where's the, yeah, the automated gate. So this is a trick I really, really love. We can hold that in place. And I used to do this with Micromanage where I would rotate the actual door. So we want to rotate, let's see here, this way. And then we want to shove it over just a little bit, keeping in mind that our orientation is changed now. So let's see here. Yeah, there we go. So it's actually, when I'm using those directions, it's not the directions you see at the bottom of the screen. It's orientating with the direction of where it was placed originally. Now let's go ahead and grab, let's say, our hex frame windows here. Oh, you know what? I actually want to move that forward just a little. Oh, I did put it forward just a little bit. Okay, great. I'm ahead of the game. I'm ahead of the game. Let's put our hex frame windows on the sides of this. If we select the edge, we should be able to get that into spot, right here. Well, we'll do it that way. That's fine. Don't love it that way, but whatever. And then we'll do that on either side here. So let's go ahead and try and put this down here and here. Then we can pick this up. Now that's almost right. I think I want to tweak this a little here. Let's go ahead and grab up our regular walls. Let's do basic walls and let's do regular fix-it walls, right? Let's put these in place instead. There, great. So I'm trying to get this back on track as far as matching the rhythm of the floors here. So now if we put our hex windows on top of that, there we go. And one more. And then we put another wall on top of that. Now we're back on our rhythm. Although if we want to play with this a little bit, we can start introducing a contrast color in here. Maybe instead of using the white, maybe this is another place where we want to go back and try something like the Fix-It Orange instead. That's going to be a little dark on those, but maybe if we had a regular beam, we could do that. Let's try it up here. So just as a contrast color, just to see what we're dealing with here. How does that look? That's kind of interesting. Yeah, I think the white and the brown, or white and the orange and the grayish that we have here, I think those kind of work kind of nicely together. Let's play with this a little bit more here. There, that's starting to look interesting. This is actually a trick I picked up on the From Scratch Gaming channel. He's got some amazing builds. He does a lot of really detailed stuff that I love. But particularly the contrast that he does, where he'll use these basic walls as basically striping around the facility, I think that works really well. All right, so we'll play with those colors a little bit more and see where we land, but now we need to have a grand entryway here. And for that, I'm gonna go to another one of these nice little blueprints I'd put together previously. Where did that go? Beam stairs. I really like this little thing that I built. These are more blueprints, of course, that are available on my channel, so you can take those and use them at your will. But basically, it just gives us this nice little stairway that goes into our facility. And you know what, I might go ahead and nudge that over just a little bit more. There we go. And I just think these are, it's just a really fun design, I think. I've seen a few other people do something similar, but not exactly what I've done here. And then we can actually take these and paint them however we want. So if I want to put like orange beams on there, we can continue that motif through. Don't know why I'm back here now. Let's put those like that. And maybe we keep the railings black or white. Do we want the railings to be white maybe? And of course we can use these to walk right into our facility. You can climb up them just as you would normally with no problem. Now the way that you build these beam stairs is really simple. You basically just run a pair of beams from the floor up to the level that you want them to stop at. In this case, just on the edge of the foundation here. And then you just run a series of beams across it. So real simple. Just at every one of the steps along the way, you should be able to place another one of these, basically every, 1 meter between there. And then you have a nice little stairwell with no additional work needed. All right, so now we have our causeway to come in. We have some indeterminate space here that's going to be used for a train station in between. Now we just need to finish wrapping the facade of this in some nice little walls here. We're about ready to put some walls on this thing, and I had a couple of concepts I wanted to play with a little bit here. Now, I generally start my building with the Mark II Blueprint Designer. The one that comes with Satisfactory, the unmodded one, is only a 4x4 foundation size. That's pretty tiny, especially when you consider the fact that, well, factories are much, much, much bigger than that. So a 4x4 unit isn't really that big to work with. So again, this is another case where I highly recommend installing a mod so that you have the bigger workspace instead. Now there are a few different mods for having a Blueprint Designer that is bigger than the 4x4 standard. I am using Blueprint Designer Plus, which gives you many different tiers of Blueprint Designers. And I start with their Mark II, which gives us a lovely 6x6 space to work with. Generally speaking, this is where I do all of my builds to start from. And anything you're exporting from this is going to work in your vanilla game, even though you can't re-import them to actually edit them. You should be able to place those blueprints that are the much larger ones from your selection here, even if you have not got the mod installed. So that makes it awfully nice. Now, I'm also going to drop over here into Structural Solutions to grab some more concrete, because I had this idea for sort of an overhang wall that I want to build. So I want to try using these lovely 8x8 inverted ramps here. Now here, I wanted to remove this one, and I think I want to put in a lovely little window here. So let's top this off with a 1x1 just to frame it, like so. And then we're going to go back and grab our walls here. Let's see here. We're going to want the 1 meter high walls to start. Those are right here, concrete wall 1 meter. And I'm going to put 2 of these in place. And then to the top of that, I want to put ourselves a fancy looking window. So under walls, we're going to grab the reinforced blast window. There we go. And then, ooh, but you know what? I'm not going to put it there. I'm going to do one little trick first here. We are using infinite zoop. So let's hold this in place with the H button. And then we're going to come around behind this here. And I'm going to hold control and do a tiny adjustment and just nudge this over by 1 tick. You can see that just popped out, so it's no longer in line with the walls below it. So let's put that in place. And then the reason why we're going to do that is because we're going to take these concrete walls all the way up, just like that. And then we're just going to remove these in the middle here, like so. So it ensconces that wall nicely in there. And when we do it that way, it means that the window is going to be slightly behind, and we're not going to get that fighting that we normally see where it glitches back and forth a lot. So that's going to hide it in there really well. So this same technique will generally work with anything if you're using vanilla materials as well, but we're using Structural Solutions concrete just because I think it looks nicer. So I think that's a good starting point for having some interesting looking wall pieces there, and that's going to tuck back nicely into itself. Now, I might remove these foundations underneath here because it doesn't really do anything for us to have those there. I should have maybe even built this right off the ground, but I'm still debating how I want this to set. Now, to get that looking really good, we need to think about what it's going to be on top as well. And that might be where this ends up being tiled, is by having a repeating pattern here. So I think maybe what we could consider is, if we go back to our builder, let's grab our Structural Solutions regular ramps, just the 4 meter old-fashioned style normal ramps. Yeah, just basic concrete ramps. And those are going to be right underneath here. Let's put those in place. Let's see, right here, just offset a little bit. Oh, and we want to zoop those as always. There we go. So that's going to give us an interesting diagonal, but I think when it sits on top, it's going to be up here. And so then we have that nice little overhang, and I think that can kind of look kind of nice and sort of brutalist modern in a way that I think works really well for us. So I'm kind of liking that. Now, we do need to add some more texture to this to gussy it up a little. So we're almost in the ballpark here, but I wanted to talk about a couple of things real quick in this design, and mainly what I want to talk about is the difference between vanilla and modded. Now, I've got a couple of comments over the years for people saying like, hey, I don't like playing with mods. I don't like modded designs, whatever. It doesn't work for me for whatever reason. That's fine. To each their own. Play the game however you want. Obviously, I play with mods. This is literally a modded series. And one of the main reasons is this. You can kind of see right here. the base game of Satisfactory does not give you good color saturation on painting. This is a huge frustration for me. So on the left here, you have Structural Solutions concrete. It's nice, it's a vibrant orange, it's basically glowing. The closest you can get to this is if you use the basic walls, but then you still have all of this extra texture, and I don't love having all of these extra lines. It looks fine from a distance, and you know, if that's your thing, like, do you, whatever, build it the way you want, that's gonna work fine. Personally, I like the clean look that you get of not having that texture, and I think that works really well. Again, we could do it with a painted beam, but I personally don't think that that looks quite as good. Let me give you that example too real quick, just to compare and contrast a few different things here. So let's just stick in our painted beam. And honestly, I don't hate it. You know, that looks okay, but you do have a very noticeable like light stripe across the top there. It just, it shines. It's not quite as good for me as the sort of matte finish you get from the concrete with Structural Solutions. So if that's your jam, that's great. This, of course, is the concrete wall that they give you, painted that same orange. And that's not orange. We can all agree that this concrete is not even close to orange. Personally, I've done some custom concrete, and I can make concrete look orange. This is not dyed concrete. That is rough. So that doesn't really work for me. Similarly, we get these lovely 8-meter swoops when we use Structural Solutions. We can only get like these 4-meter swoops if we are not using Structural Solutions. And honestly, this doesn't look half bad. Like, I kind of like the grungy aesthetic that we're getting from that using the grip metal on here. Let me turn on some light so you can see a little better. Like that actually kind of works for me. But again, this is a concrete wall, and this is a ramp in concrete. And you know what? I painted both of these the same color black. Do these look the same color to you? No, they do not. The colors are a mess. So I'm probably going to keep this concrete vanilla foundation on the bottom. I'll keep it on the top too. I think that looks pretty nice. But I think I am not going to use necessarily the vanilla walls in this section. I might even keep these double ramps the way they are. But I tell you what I'll do. I'm going to save this as a blueprint. And in the blueprint that I'm saving, I will do a vanilla version and I will do a modded version. And you all can use either one. You choose what you want to do. If you want to use it in the vanilla game, you should be able to do that. So I'll save both versions here and provide those in my blueprints archive, which you can get the link below. And that's, once again, always free. You don't have to pay for that. Just go and download stuff. There, that's starting to look sharp. Honestly, that might even be too much light up here. I might even take the glowiness of these panels down a notch or two and see how that looks, just to make this a little less intense. Yeah, that's starting to look good. So we're getting the nice glow out of all of our reflected lighting down here. And at the top here, we've got this nice glow, but those panels then aren't so intense. I think that works pretty well for us. All right, so we have a working wall design, so let's start snapping this thing together. Now, because of the way that our foundations are going to sit, we want to put this on top of a foundation underneath our existing platform. So one layer down, and these are going to be temporary. We're going to remove these later. Now, because our columns here are coming out by one foundation, we only have 13 foundations remaining. That means we can't actually fit exactly 3 of these across. We can either have them overlap on the side, which I think is perfectly viable at this point. Oh, and this is also backwards. Perfectly viable at this point to have them overlap on one side. We can set them into the wall of this, or we can make it so that there's just one on each side here, and we just tile the middle with foundations and ramps. And I think the latter is what we might do. So let's go ahead and set these into place and try it out. Okay, so that's generally the right idea. Now all we want to do is start tiling these vertically. So let's go ahead and pull off this row here. And then we can put more of these on top. So let's grab our blueprint builder and we will grab our brutalist wall again, and we are going to put this into place. Make sure to facing the right direction. Of course, there's nothing wrong with putting things backwards. You can certainly play with designs a little bit here and make things look different and interesting. Maybe we put that right there. Do another one over here. So here's a little something I've been tinkering with to fill in those middle spots. Again, Structural Solutions concrete here, painted orange. I've also added these big metal pillars, but in the middle I put the tiny 4x4x1 blocks, the quarter size foundations, so that it kind of makes it look a little more interesting and matches where this line comes through here. And then this is a big corner piece going down the middle here. You can do this with just rotating using the normal barrier method if you want, but I thought that this works a little nicer because now it's all nice and flush with that edge. So I really like the way that that looks. So we've saved that. Now another thing I've been tinkering with here separately is another version of this, only where I added these wall pieces with the fluid buffers built into it and some pipes there. So this, I thought, looks even more interesting. And the benefit of this one here is what we can do is actually run some pumps through our facility, fill these about halfway full with water, and these pipes will actually animate then. Again, it's going to kill your frame rate if you do a lot of these, but that could look really cool as well here. Okay, let's see it in action. Let's kind of eyeball this into the space that we want it in, and we do want to make sure that it is lined up properly with this edge. Let's look at it from a distance and make sure that that matches up nicely. It does. So we are now in the ballpark here. I got rid of that big white building that I had in front of this because I realized the front of this already just looks kind of great, and I didn't want to hide any of that from the design. I'll probably do something different here where I bring the train station in maybe on the bottom or something. We'll figure that out later. But for right now, this is kind of where we're going with it. Now, this needs some serious finishing to get it where it needs to go. What we still need to do is figure out some sort of a roof on this that's going to look interesting and dynamic, and also to finish out the bottom. Now, the bottom, I think I've already kind of figured out what I want to do here, so that's going to be the most straightforward part for us now. So we're going to go ahead and make this relatively large. I think we're going to do, let's see, those are each going to be, what, segments that are 5 wide there, and on these sides, yeah, it's 5 wide as well, because I'm going to stick these out in the front. Let's start ourselves with a 3 wide one, and then we're going to do a 5 wide version as well. I do not know why the light is flickering weirdly, but we're not going to worry about that right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up 5 foundations, and we're just going to repeat that, and let's just go ahead and go over one. There we go. All right, so the bottom of this is going to be the edge that we are connecting to, just like that. And let's go ahead and grab our painted beams up again. Let's see here, builder, architecture, painted beam. And we're gonna come right off here. There we go, because we want it to actually sink into these. So that's straight down right there on that corner. We change our modes to diagonal, and we want to come out 1 foundation in depth there, just like that. Perfect. That's going to give us our angle, and that's going to make it have some very nice footings. Now, on top of that, we then go and grab our, let's do our concrete pillars here. If I decide I want to change my mind later, I can do that. That sets the angle on that first concrete pillar, and then these I can just zoop down into place. Now, once you get one of these into place, the quickest way is actually to then just run a bunch off of the perpendicular of the top of it. And then you can zoop these in real quick and easy without really having to think too hard about it. We just need to get it into the general vicinity because we are going to be using the infinite zoop to get that into place. Just going to nudge it. Let's see here. That's about right. Close enough for us to work with. So let's bring you forward. And the edge of this foundation should just line right up with the other edges here. Right like that. And that seems to be working perfectly for us, so that is the spot that we want it. Great, that's going to work perfectly. We pull these foundations off, and then to get it down to the ground, we just run the rest of these all the way down. Same thing we did on the plastic factory to get the piers working in the water here. Okay, so there are our entrances. There is our base set up a little bit there for this. I put some windows on the sides here. I think that looks pretty nice. and use those same sloped walls. I'm just offsetting them a little bit. And then we also have a back door in here, where once again we're using structural solutions to give ourselves a giant 16 by 16 auto door that works really nicely for us. So that gives us our look and feel on the various sides of that base of the building. Now the only thing left to do is to work on the roof and get this wrapped up. So I think for this roof piece, we need to start with the corners, which are going to be on these hexagons, or excuse me, the octagons that are around the sides here. So for that, we want something that's going to carry forward that sort of sloping thing that we are doing. We do have some nice half ramp pieces. Yeah, there we go. That we could use if we wanted on the sides here. Now, these edges are going to be a little interesting because of those diagonals overlapping, and I'm not really sure if I love it or if I hate it. So we're going to come back here and use our windows that we had made before. Let's go ahead and put these hex windows into place. Alright, so there's the first stage of the build, and then from there we can start building up on top of this a little bit. So I still want to cap the roof on this, and so to get that perfectly capped, I need to get some beams across here. Let's change this to freeform, and that'll let us do beams of any size that we want. There we go, and now we should be able to put beams right off the middle of it if we want as well. Might just take a little bit of nudging. So we're going to hold that there, and then the cross point of these two beams is of course going to be the perfect center of this. So we just need to shift this over just a little. It's almost too much, but I think that will be just about right. We're off by, you know, a couple of centimeters, but not so much that people will really notice this. And then from there, we can put the rest of our blocks in place. And I'm going to grab myself a lookout tower. I think that's going to look nice on top of this whole thing. We're going to set that right in the middle of that foundation. We're going to hold that in place. I'm okay with the ladders being in front. And now, all I want to do is grab up my ramps, and then I'm going to do my full-size ramps here. We're just going to set those on each of these corners. Just like this. Alright, and there we have our finished roof. We put some beams on it to give it that nice decoration, and we are going to go throw this on top. Alright, so all four roofs are now in place, and this is looking pretty good. The last little bit here to cover is this section of the structure, and it's going to be hard to see from anywhere aside from right above it, so we don't have to get super fancy with it. I'll probably just play with these ramps a little bit more here, maybe just go to the walls with each of these on the sides, and that'll give us a nice smooth looking roof. Alright, so there is our finished build, and I think it looks pretty darn neat. I'm really happy with how this turned out. Alright, so there is our finished build for this giant screw factory. I think this turned out really nice. I like how grounded it looks. I love how industrial it looks. I think the different textures really play nicely together here, and I really like how the color contrast works with this as well. I think the various design elements kind of synergize nicely. I'm really content with how this turned out. Now, what remains is for us to hook this up to both the supply of iron down there in our iron production facility, and then route all of the resulting screws back into our manufacturers over there for the production of computers and heavy frames. But all of that is going to have to wait for the next episode of Enterprise Architecture, because this has just taken entirely too long to build. I spent about, I don't know, somewhere between 12 and 16 hours, I think, just building this one facility. So, for now, we're going to call this the end of the episode, but thanks again for watching Enterprise Architecture, and we'll see you back here next time. Bye, friends!